Hello, everyone. Hello, class. Hello, professor. So here's a obvious um, picture, the first slide of a unicorn that seems to be ripping through an angel. So we know here that it entails an evil unicorn. The story um, is basically about a young girl who gets her happiness fed on from this unicorn. Okay, so the big move change turned upside down. So here is a young family named the Millards. Um, the mom is June, the father is Robert, and the daughter's name is Kelsey. Kelsey really enjoyed the country life because she knew that there was big open spaces. Um, Now the thing that to think about here is that the the home that they purchased came with a horses on this property. And Kelsey, being the youngest one, of course, she enjoyed animals and she thought it was really cool to ride horses and things of that nature. And she spent most of her time, tending to these horses, spending time with them and building relationships. So here is where things start to get weird for Kelsey. Um, she starts to hear bells and laughter of other children. The sound actually intrigues her, so she stays outdoors instead of coming inside like her parents asked her to have dinner. When she does go outside and start to inspect things and start to explore further into what she's experiencing, she finds nothing. And then at one point, Kelsey realizes that there's something odd about her horses, that there's something happening way more than just what she is hearing. There's one thing that stuck out the most to her. There's one horse that stuck out in particular. It was different. It was shaped different. It was much bigger. It had different colors. And it also carried a horn that stuck out of the top of his head. What in the sorcery? So here, Kelsey spots this odd horse, and even though she is shocked, she's curious to know more about this particular animal. When she looks further on, she realizes that it is a unicorn. But how did it get here? It appeared out of thin air. Or has it been here all along? So this is something that she's been pondering. But what she do know is that she wants to know more about this particular animal. So she is getting herself ready to approach this animal. Start to heat up here, where now she's about to get herself ready to encounter this large, magical, and mythical looking animal. She's oblivious to the fact that it is evil and has evil intentions. But she believes that this animal is intriguing, it's beautiful, and she wants to know more about this animal. So now things are starting to happen. The encounter. So here is when Kelsey goes up the hill in this grassy hill as it would be in the back of her home. It's her ranch. So she does go up and explore after she sees this unicorn. And as she begins to touch the unicorn, because now at this point she's there, as she begins to touch this unicorn, and before she can place her hand above its head and actually feel this unicorn, it speaks to her. So now she's in total shock. She's paralyzed, and she can't believe that this unicorn is actually speaking to her. It said hello, and she's in total shock. Every day. So now at this moment when she encountered this animal that speaks, this unicorn that speaks to her, now the unicorn is telling her that, I'm unharmful, so there's no reason to be harmed. So now that they have gotten comfortable with one another, knowing that there's no threat, they eventually formed this unbreakable bond. Her parents, June and Robert, are actually really excited that their daughter likes to spend time outside and outdoors, tending to horses, being that they moved from the city to the countryside, and they like her adjustment. So Kelsey eventually ends up more so paying attention to the unicorn than she does horses. But to her parents' eyesight, it looks as though she is still engaged with building relationships with her animals that are on the ranch. Meanwhile, she's favoring this unicorn more so than she is actually favoring the others. So at this very moment, even though this is called family time, the slide is family time, even though Kelsey was spending so much time with the unicorn, her parents thought it was a great idea since their big move that they would, spend more time with their daughter, and that Kelsey should be spending much more time with them, and they decided to go on a family trip in hopes to regain their family, you know, relationships and be able to bond more in that sense. So coming back from this family vacation that they had spent, even though Kelsey knew that her parents wanted her to spend time with her, she wasn't so happy about, you know, being away from her unicorn. When they returned, this slide is called the return. When she returned, she automatically uh, went to go see her friend, her unicorn friend, and they sat and they giggled for about a couple of hours. And she admired the stories that the unicorn, would tell her over the course of time of them spending time with each other. So as you can see here, Kelsey is inseparable of this unicorn, which means that she's attached. There's no way that anyone or anything is going to come in between that. And she basically shows that each and every day when she's home. The worker. So Kelsey's parents, they figured that since Kelsey spent so much time doing what she does for these horses, they thought they would be giving their daughter a break by hiring a professional. Even though this was not ideal for Kelsey because she wanted to be the one outdoors, not telling her parents that there was a magical unicorn out there as well, which her parents wouldn't have been able to see anyway, being being because of the fact that this unicorn was invisible. But no, Kelsey was not happy about this man coming in and doing all the work that she normally does because this takes away from her time spent outdoors with her companion. She did decide to go and take a peek of what he was doing, but the professional was the one basically um, now taking control of how to take care of these horses. So within this slide, it shows her mother, and it shows that she's upset about the fact that she is being restricted from going to go see the horses and spending as much time as possible with them. Kelsey here doesn't understand why her parents decided to hire a professional um, for her to take a break from the horses. But what she does know is that she's really upset about this, and her parents were trying to reason with her and tell her that it's beneficial for her own sake, so that way they'll be able to spend more time with each other. So this slide indicates that um, she is upset, and it expresses how upset she feels. So now we know that Kelsey and the unicorn have built this relationship that is unbreakable, that is almost to the point where Kelsey feels like she's dying of separation anxiety without this unicorn. The unicorn understands that now that she's not spending as much time outside, her parents are restricting her from coming to come see the unicorn every day. But the evil plan behind this unicorn is the fact that each day that Kelsey comes and visits him, he is draining all of the joy from her magically. She has no idea that this is happening, but he is well aware of the fact that if as long as she's physically there with her, there with him, I'm sorry, that it is able to continue to gain this joy, this happiness, this power, and this eternal life that it can continue to suck out from its victims. So this is the unicorn's evil plan, is to eventually suck her dry so that way it can live on. This slide is called Tea Time. So the point of this slide and the picture of it is somewhat of what the evil unicorn looks like underneath all the glam and glitter, colorful wings, gold wings as I am dressed as, and starts to indicate evil intentions that she should do as far as going against her parents. The unicorn asks Kelsey to go against her parents, and that in order for her to go against her parents' wishes to prevent her from coming out and coming to see him, that she would be able to come outside and spend more time with him. If she doesn't do so, then she wouldn't be able to see the unicorn as much as possible. So now the unicorn is indicating that, if you spend more time and go against your parents' wishes, then we'll be able to spend more time. So it comes up with this idea of a tea party. And of course, every little girl loves tea parties. So the unicorn explained to her, then we will have a tea party tomorrow. And this tea party will allow us to have fun, tell us our stories together. And it's basically selling her this, happy, joy, lucky kind of time that they will have together. Almost like they're having their own party of two together. Meanwhile, this is a huge trick from the unicorn, and eventually the outcome is yet to come. So death is near. Tea party, rip dead. This is like a picture of just indicating that the tea party is bound to happen. Now that the professional has already returned and got there to the home, he's already starting to tend to the horses. And Kelsey decides to beg her parents to go outside to tend to her unicorn friend and go get fresh air. Her intentions is to go and sneak and go see her friend. So today is the big tea party, and Kelsey dresses up. She looks beautiful, of course, in this photo. Her unicorn friend is by her side, and they just start conversing and laughing and talking and enjoying each other. And while she sits there, she starts to drink her tea, and the unicorn decides to bend over and pour tea from its horn in a cup, and not knowing that this tea is filled with poison. This tea is like the most potent thing you could taste, but being that it's a unicorn, it's not going to portray itself as that. So she starts drinking the tea. So long sleeve. This photo basically shows you what she looks like after she drinks this tea. And she goes into this deep, deep trance and she passes out. When she awakes, she asks her friend, her unicorn friend, and says, "What happened to me?" And the unicorn lies to her, as this unicorn is evil, so it's lying to her, saying, "Well, you drank all of this tea and you ate some biscuits and you ended up falling asleep." So from the very beginning, he'd been lying to her, but now it's even way worse that he's lying to her, because now she's in a situation where she's waking up not knowing that she's probably most likely already gone. Here it gets really interesting, because now that she's awoken, um, she's looking around and she's seeing the children from the beginning where she was hearing the story. Let's recollect when she was starting to hear children, when she first was introduced to this unicorn, she was hearing children and laughter, and this is what led her to go explore in the first place. But now that she's awake, she can visually see these children on horses, as if the horses were inside of her little ranch that they live on. They're playing with the horses. In this photo, it's mystical, and if you can see it, it looks very mystical. They almost look like ghost-like, but to her, to the naked eye, they're real children. Forever. So this slide is basically a slide that's supposed to allude the unicorn's world in forever. It's almost like you're saying, "Come with me, walk with me into forever." So after a while, she's noticing that the unicorn is not there. So the unicorn appears like it did at the beginning of the story, and when it did appear, Kelsey explained that she got to know a lot of the friends that was there on the ranch, but she has no idea how these children got there. Before she heard them at the very beginning, but now she can actually visually see them. And the unicorn explains to her, "Well, this is my world. This is the world of joy. This is the world of unicorn. Do you want to stay forever?" And of course she's gonna agree to that. So now that we're in the unknown world, although Kelsey agreed that she wants to stay with her friend forever, she is also comprehensive, and she's also worried about the fact that, what will my parents say? What would my parents think if I decided to stay here? And the unicorn assured her that her parents is okay with her being there. They will have no worries. In fact, they probably would be much more happy if she was there, if she did stay there. So he continues to lie to her. He lies about this world that he created for her. It's an illusion. It's actually a world of death. It's not a world of joy. So this is why this slide is called the unknown world, is because this is our unknown world for Kelsey. Mourning parents. This is a part in the story where Kelsey is still unknown of the fact that she is basically dead. Her friend killed her. She came back in the spirit world of this unicorn's world, and while she's gone, her parents knew that they allowed her to go out, but they didn't know that she was in fact not coming back at all. She actually disappeared into thin air, just as a unicorn had appeared to her at the beginning. Time had passed on, months have passed on, and her parents started to believe that Kelsey was never coming back home, and that something terrible must have happened to her. So now we're at a point in the story where now the parents, been searching for her for months, and Kelsey has no idea that she had vanished and she had died and she's gone. So people had searched for her, and there was no success in finding her because Kelsey was in a whole other unicorn illusion world that it created for her. Her parents are, in fact, sad, and now they are mourning over her. Moving away, this slide is basically indicating from the picture, you can see that Kelsey's parents are now, moving from this home. They decided that they were going to move because the burden of knowing that this is where their child disappeared, this is where their child was last seen, they have no hope of her return. They're deciding that this will be the best thing for them to do, is to move on, because at this point, months went by, that's approaching maybe a couple years. They don't want to be here anymore and experience this loss anymore. In this house, on this ranch, is where all young children are stored. The unicorn stores all the children, and like I said, create this illusion of a world. So this slide is basically saying that we're hurting, we're childless, our daughter is gone, she's basically dead, because at this point, this is what they're obviously indicating, being that she just vanished into thin air. It's time to move on. This last slide is new victims. So a year went by, and the family and there has been two young boys that soon have moved into Kelsey's old home, and later on, the cycle with the unicorn will begin again. This time, it involves two young boys, younger than Kelsey, and it also involves their parents as it did at the beginning. The unicorn will eventually appear itself, and when it does, it will be leading these children into its own world of death. This last slide is the background about unicorns. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of overview about unicorns. Back about 35 years ago, they believed that unicorns was a descendant of this particular animal. This particular animal is called a Siberian unicorn that went extinct over about 35,000 years ago. Unicorns were also mentioned in a lot of biblical Bibles. It basically was an animal that was really muscular, big, and it also wasn't a friendly animal. I mean, most of us think about unicorns in a way where they're colorful, they're beautiful, they're magical, but unicorns were obviously really threatening animals, being that they had this entire long horn. They used it to kill their victims. Whoever, if they felt attacked, they would use this horn in order to kill them. In other research, it stated that unicorns were able to unpoison water, and this would allow other animals to come in and drink from rivers, lakes, things of that nature. A lot of the Chinese and Egyptian cultures, they talked a lot about unicorns, and they believed that unicorns were actually magical. They used it for medicines and all things of that nature. So when we look at this photo, it was said that unicorns were descended from this particular animal. Oxes, goats, and other animals that have horns were believed that this was basically the evolution of unicorns, and this is how unicorns came about. Lastly, this is the reference page. It gives a little bit more background about unicorns. You can also look up online, YouTube. I watch a lot of videos, and I researched a lot of information pertaining to what unicorns were said to be, how they came about, and what would they use for. They were used mostly for their horns, because it was said to be this was mostly a part of their body that was sacred to different type of cultures, as far as like the Chinese and the Egyptians goes, where it's expressed widely with them. But I enjoyed telling you guys my entire story. I do know that it was pretty lengthy, not really a creative person, but I tried my very best, so I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed. I would like to show you a little bit about my unicorn, even though I'm dressed like a magical unicorn. Magical unicorns are not always what they seem to be. Things that are pretty can be turned evil. Things that are cute can actually have agendas. So, therefore, I decided to do this and put a little spin and twist on it. Again, thank you for watching, and have a great day.